Okay, in this video, we're going to be talking through the romance genre, and I have divided this one again into two basic types, the classic romance and the modern romance for this literary genre. Okay, so the definitions that we will be using, or a definition of the romance that we will be using for our purposes, is the focus of the romance genre is characters going on a quest. Okay, and this could be a journey to adventure, discovery, idealism, or romance. So there's this idea of a romance as a quest. Classic romance has roots in ancient Greek and medieval European literature, so we're kind of not even going to talk about them. And then the modern romance, what is much more familiar to us, might begin as early as the start of the 1800s, right around there. Okay, the setting for our romance genre, I wanted to, when we talk about place, it could be a physical or emotional place, a place of unease. So something is going on that is making the main character feel uneasy. So whether this is an emotional, like they're lonely or they're looking for an ideal of some kind, or they're physically uncomfortable and they want to move out of where they are or how they are. Also, the places for romantic settings tend to be real wild. So very rarely will we start with a romance in a big city, at least a classical romance. So, or one of the older romances. It'll be in a wild place or a distant place so that there is a room for strange and powerful things to happen. The time in a classic romance would be set in the past, so this includes even some of the Arthurian legend or Robin Hood legends or things like that fall in that older category of romance. And then modern romance might actually be set in modern times. So it could be it could be set in the time the author was writing, so that it would be modern to that author's time. It could be set in modern to our time. So again, there's two time periods that tend to occur in a romance. With the more classic adventure quest, that would be somewhere in the past usually, and then the more modern settings would be of the author's time. The social expectations, classical romance has the same social rules of the time. So this is at least somewhat reality-based. So people behave in, maybe extraordinary ways, but typical for the setting of the time period. They might even act in idealized ways. So these might be the social expectations, is that they're going to be ideal examples of who they are, perfect examples. Modern romance has the same social rules as the author would expect. So when you read a modern romance, people behave in normal ways. But again, it could be an ideal, like he's the perfect guy or she's the perfect girl or some version of that. Okay, with that idea of the social expectations is that everyone is perfect or everyone is ideal, or you're searching for this ideal, these social behaviors, comes our characters. So the protagonist is what we would think of as that classical hero or heroine. So the main character may be a boy or a girl, human man or human woman, and they are that classic, like, good, and everyone likes them, and we want to like them as a reader, and we want good things to happen for them. So it's sort of a classic idea of a heroic person or a heroine. The antagonist in the romance, both the older and the newer, tends to be a villain of some kind, a bad guy, or a rival in more of the romance. The later and even into the modern romances, it's a rival, a love rival, perhaps. There might also, in some of the romances, be a force that is working against them. And sometimes we talk about that it could be like a force of nature, but sometimes it could be a force like love or hate. So that might also be a character working for them in a romance, for or against them. Supporting characters in romance, classic romance may bring in supernatural creatures. So in some of the Arthurian legends and Robin Hood adventures and some of those old French pieces, there are some supernatural creatures, elves and fairies and strange witches that might help the characters along their way, but they're usually kept to the supporting people and aren't about the main characters. That's in the classic older style. In modern romance, they tend to have realistic people, and this isn't going to be on the slide, but I'll just tell you there are some genre benders. We'll talk about those where they change the genre or blend genres. One of the characters might be a supernatural creature as well, but it's still a romance because they're on a quest for idealism or for love or for adventure. Okay, so romance plot structure tends to be pretty straightforward, and these are going to become more familiar to you as we keep talking about all the genres. The plot structure, the main plot structure is going to be that plot arc, the plot mountain, which is introduction, inciting incident, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. That inciting incident could be where the boy meets the girl or the girl meets the boy, or any combination of boys and girls meeting each other and deciding that they might be in love. And then what adventures happen to them in between until they reach that adventure. So in a romance, it's, the boy tends to lose girl, find girl, or the girl tends to lose boy, whatever, however you like to put it. And then they reach this moment of turning, this turning point. So it could be less dramatic than a more adventurous plot, or there could be a moment of high adventure and danger, and then everyone is safe in the end, and that's when the characters finally begin their romantic life together. Another common plot structure for a romance, although it sort of tends to blend the two, is the hero's journey. So if you think about it, if you're on a quest to look for something or find something, you're going to follow that like, ooh, I get the quest. I need help on my quest. There's danger and challenge and adventure on my quest. And then I meet my goal and I go back home and live happily ever after. So that hero's journey, the circle of that might also fit nicely into or explain our plot structure for romances. Some common events in romance: boy meets girl, or girl meets boy, or girl meets girl, or boy meets boy, doesn't matter. Somebody meets someone that they think is interesting. The characters could be on a quest. So if you know anything about like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, they wanted to find the Holy Grail to help save England and vanquish their foes and save the king. And so they're on a quest to save England and the king. Robin Hood would be like on a quest to save England as well, but from King John and the Sheriff of Nottingham. Then common events as well in both cases, whether it's romantic or adventurous, is they overcome challenges. So how do they win their fair love, or how do they win the quest item or solve that problem? And there is typically a happy ending. There is typically a happy ending in a romance plot. So, well, anyway, the themes and conflict that are common to romance. So some common themes, again, these are just for our working purposes, is like a common theme would be love conquers all. All right, so if romance is our ideal, then love conquers all. So our theme topic there would be love, and then love conquers all problems. The quest theme. So when you're going on a quest, what are some of the theme topics or big ideas that come up when you're on a quest, like bravery and things like that? Truth or faith, or trust or faith, excuse me. would be those big ideas along with honesty or bravery. Again, we're talking about idealism, this idea of perfection or reaching toward perfection. And another big one is chivalry, that concept of all of those things: bravery, love, trust, faith, honesty, goodness, politeness, all of those things. So that might be the big idea, and then what comments does it say about chivalry? Our next slide, or our next type of conflict that is common, would be character versus character, right? Good versus evil, good guy, love interest, hero, bad guy, villain, or rival. The character might also have to face themselves as part of this adventure. Like maybe they're scared to, let the person get close to them or some way, and that, there isn't anyone that they're battling against except their own ideas of love or worthiness or something like that. And again, where we got some genre bending, sometimes it's the character versus the supernatural. And that could be something like a supernatural creature. That could be something like madness. So this force, this idea of what they might have to battle against. So genre or romance is one of those genres that's a little muddy. It crosses over into lots of other things. But I always think it's important to remember in these things the main character is on a quest, whether that's for an object, an ideal, or love. Okay, some examples of the romance genre. I'm going to try and stick to some more modern and classic examples, although there are some great ones like King Arthur and Robin Hood and those sorts of tales of daring do and whatnot. But classic literature, like classic literature, Jane Eyre would be a romance. This is a young woman who is in search of a life for herself on her own terms, and how she deals with work. Like, how does she care for herself? How does she find love and set out that life that she wants for herself? That is her quest. There's romance, and supernatural, but I love Jane Eyre. It's a great story. Modern book might be Bridget Jones's Diary, which is also a modern update of a classic romance called Pride and Prejudice. But Bridget Jones is a young woman who has not got her life figured out and needs to figure herself out as well as her love life. They did make a movie of it that you might be familiar with. It was a great book and it's a good movie. After that one, it kind of goes downhill. Some TV or movies that you guys might be familiar with. One of my favorite romances that falls in that older, more adventure and romance, but definitely the character on a quest, good versus evil, rivals and everything, giants and witches and whatnot, is The Princess Bride. So it's a great book. It's an even better movie, and I highly recommend checking that one out. A Netflix, in case you can't remember that, it's To All the Boys I've Loved Before. That is a romance. She goes on a quest her sister pushes her onto the quest of what does it mean to be in love? What does it mean to her? And how she's dealing with the things that happen to her when she's a young woman, her mother dies. So, and how does she deal with that and boys in high school and her own self? So it's a book as well as a movie, but if you're into romance, you can check that out on Netflix. There's lots of good stuff on Netflix. And I think, we'll quickly get our images in here. So classic romance, even earlier, we're just going to leave out the poor Greeks and everything, is think about Knights of the Round Table, Ladies' Fair, Robin Hood Adventure, good versus evil, and a more modern romance is going to have that romantic element, looking for love, sort of behaviors. And really good ones, the character will find themselves as well as romantic interest.